I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on Spotlight, we're speaking with David Catherman. He delves deep into biblical prophecies in his insightful book called Come Babylon and Jerusalem, the study of end times with the Tribulation and Millennium. Through rigorous research, the author sheds light on the significant roles of Babylon and Jerusalem, two cities destined to shape the fate of humanity in the end times. We're delighted to have this very talented author join us here today on Spotlight, and we ask viewers like you to support writers like him by subscribing to our channel. Dave, thanks so much for joining us here today on Spotlight.
Thank you.
How did you begin your journey into studying end-time prophecies, and what compelled you to focus specifically on Babylon and Jerusalem?
Well, I've been a Christian for a long time, and I've been through studies of end times. But just the idea of Babylon, I've been reading in the Bible about Babylon, and I thought, well, let's research it and figure out what's going on. So I did some research on it, and I found that Babylon and Jerusalem are the two largest cities ever mentioned in the end times. So Jerusalem was first, of course, because the Bible is centered around that. But Babylon was mentioned many times throughout the Bible as they picked up on the idea that end times are coming.
Babylon and Jerusalem are frequently mentioned cities in the Bible, as you said. Can you explain their contrasting roles in the context of the tribulation and millennium?
Well, of course, Jerusalem is the city of God, right? Mm-hmm. That's the main city that God has been working through all this time in Judah. And sometimes Israel split off, and sometimes Israel was with Judah. But Judah was always the center there, and that was Jerusalem. And so that city is mentioned many, many times in the Bible. But when you get to end times, there's another reference to Babylon. Now, you got to understand that Babylon was an ancient city way back in Genesis times, and it was destroyed. And even now today, there's very few people living there. Some people try to get in there, but they don't do anything. But in the end times, they're going to rebuild Babylon. And it's going to be the center of the world, basically, with the business center, the religious center. And so, how's that going to happen? You guys say, what is that? So, my theory is that after the rapture comes, what's going to happen is that the Islamic world is going to be the number one religion in the world, is Muslim Islam, and they're going to rise up and take over. And that's why all the areas around the Middle East are Muslim, right? Mm-hmm. All the way up from up into the Eastern Bloc, all the way down into Egypt, and it's all Muslim. Yeah. And so they're going to take over, and they're going to rebuild the city as a center point for all of the Muslim people to, they kind of do a Mecca now, but it's not big enough to handle everybody. But Babylon's going to be big enough to handle everybody coming in. But it's not only going to be the religious center, it's going to be the business center of the world. The world is going to kind of fall away when the Christians go away. America is going to be devastated, right? So it's going to be picking up as the primary city. Okay. I'm probably expounding too much here, but go ahead.
No, you're doing great. Now, there's lots of trouble right now in the Middle East, obviously in Israel and Gaza and so forth, with people fearful that other countries will intervene as well. Do you feel that this somehow plays into the end time prophecies?
I do. I think, in the Bible, it talks about as you get closer and closer to the end times, the harassment and everything really picks up, especially around Israel. And that's why after the rapture, when the Antichrist comes, it's going to be, wow, our Messiah is here finally, and Israel's going to latch onto him. But the Antichrist is going to be benevolent for the first 3.5 years and just joining everybody together, pulling the whole world together as Babylon the center of the world. And then after 3.5 years, he does an about turn and starts being really hard on Israel and the countries of the world. Now, in my book, I do a prophecy of, I guess you could call it that, prediction of what's going to happen. But the tribulation, second half of the tribulation, is going to be World War III. It's going to be a nuclear war. And there's lots of passages in the scripture that talk about elements melting and fire raining down and the moon, sun and moon darkening. All of those are good descriptions of what happens in a nuclear war.
Pretty frightening stuff, particularly with what's happening in the Middle East, what's happening in Europe, with threats of nuclear war seeming to surface every day. Do you feel that end times and the rapture are near?
I do think they're very near. I think they're, I mean, I've seen predictions of 2030 to be the latest it would be. But I mean, you see a lot of things developing as end times. I mean, there's a lot of things in the millennium, in Tribulation and Millennium, where they have, how do you explain it? Miraculous things happening. Well, I think what it is it's going to be, science is going to be creating more and more inventions like robots and gene editing and all of that. It's just going to be, with the gene editing, we're going to be able to live all the way through the millennium, thousands of years or hundreds of years. And so I think there's a correlation there, but I think God puts into the minds of men what to invent. And I think you're seeing inventions coming around that are going to extend the life of people forever. And so there's just a lot of things that are happening that you can look at to right now. And I would say they're just prior to the rapture. So I'm looking at 5 to 7 years as a max until the rapture. Of course, people have been saying that for 2,000 years, but
right. Eventually somebody will be right? Exactly. Now, your book suggests that the rebuilding of Babylon in Iraq would be a clear sign of the onset of end times. What are some of the other indicators or prophecies that readers should be aware of?
Well, the Bible talks about wars and rumors of wars and things like that, which have been going on for 2,000 years. So we can't really say that that's predicting. But I think you're going to see Israel being in wars and rumors of wars is going to be bigger and bigger. As we've been seeing, there's been some stuff going on down there. And so as you pick up on it, there will be more and more. And I think that's what's going to usher in the Antichrist, is he's going to solve all that and say, no, you're not going to beat on Israel. And everybody's going to come around him and say, oh, right, he's the Messiah. So, I mean, that's just my theory.
So your theory is that the Antichrist will come, he will seem benevolent, he will actually be greeted as the Messiah, but over time, maybe a period of 3 years, he will devolve into something evil and something destructive.
Right. But the 3.5 years that he's benevolent, Israel jumps on him and says, wow, this is our Messiah. And they jump, go full force into it. Right. And so you'll see all of Israel bowing down to this Antichrist until 3.5 years, and they're going to go, whoa, what did we do wrong? Because he's going to come out and start killing everybody. Well, that killing everybody, I mean, it's like 3/4 of the world is going to get killed in there. I think that's nuclear wars. I think the nuclear wars are going to kick off, and that's going to wipe out the world.
Well, it's a frightening prophecy, that is for sure. The name of the book, if you'd like to learn more and read more about it, it is quite a riveting read. It is called Come Babylon and Jerusalem, the study of end times with the tribulation and Millennium. It is written by David Catherman, and he really takes a deep dive into biblical prophecies in this very, very insightful book. David, thank you so much for joining us here today on Spotlight.
Thank you.
My pleasure. And to the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time, this time until next time on Spotlight. And of course, this book is available everywhere books are sold, including Amazon. The links are below this interview.